Paul Arnold here, sometimes known as Studying Professor, and today I want to talk to you about behavioural economics, and it's a really fascinating field that's really taken hold over the past number of years and actually is really helping to shape the way we do marketing and all other things as well. Okay, so now let's just review some of the key drivers that we see in behavioural economics. And I'm going to review two big ones that seem to sort of underpin a lot of the other ones, and then I'm going to go through 10 other ones that I think actually are the key ones, even though there are loads and loads more. So the first two key ones we call the primary drivers are comparative context and ease. Now let's cover these other 10 principles. So I'll cover these quite fast. First one, power of loss. Great experiment was done where they said to people, we're going to do a coin toss and imagine that you could lose $100 if it comes out tails. How much do you need to win to offset the loss of $100? Now, in many ways you say, well, it should be 100. It's not. People always said 200. So in other words, we value a loss at 2 times the price we value a gain. And you know, the world is full of these storage companies because actually we put all our stuff in storage because we don't want to chuck it away. You know, I read a really interesting report which said that the amount of money spent on average putting stuff into storage significantly outpays the amount of money that stuff is insured for. Or take all these other things where they give the hardware away for free but charge for the refills, be it a razor blade or in my case a printer. So I bought a really nice LaserJet printer and I paid £140 for it. It was a colour printer, fantastic. It cost me 140 quid. Do you know how much the toners cost? 140 quid. So I used it 3 times before I thought this is crazy. But actually, I didn't chuck it away for long too, because the idea of chucking away a piece of that, it just doesn't make sense. But however, that's what locks us in. Power of now. Again, this idea that basically what we want is we're living in a hedonistic world. We want stuff now. And the more you can give me stuff now, the more likely, you know, you're going to sort of pay money for that. So for example, I was on the phone the other week to one of the telephone companies, and there's one of those big queuing things that, you know, they always say, you know, we're up, unexpectedly high demand, But however, if you pay 50p, you can jump to the front of the queue. I paid the 50p. You think what happens if you go to Walt Disney Parks these days? You pay extra to go to the front of the queues. You think what credit cards do? Credit cards are an amazing invention because they separate the power of now from the power of loss. You get it now, but you don't have to pay until later on. Let's talk about scarcity value. Scarcity value is all about this fundamental idea that actually we value something that is quite rare. So all those limited editions, or when the shop is closing down, or take Concorde. No one was flying on Concorde. Suddenly they say we're going to take Concorde away. Suddenly it's get full and people are paying a very high price for it. Same with hotel rooms in New York. The price you pay is absolutely linked into the number of beds that are available. Let's talk about anchoring. Anchoring is this idea about how there is a mental anchoring to a certain price point. And I taught brands anchor you. So in other words, you expect an Audi to be a certain price point, which is quite different from the price point you expect to pay for, say, a Skoda, you know? Even though maybe the underlying mechanics are probably very similar because they're made by the same company. So actually, you know, we've got to be aware that we get anchored into things. That's what brands do. I always joke about, you know, why does Mulberry handbag sell for £1,000? Because that's the price of entry to be in the super handbags market price. But however, is that a better handbag? Not necessarily, but we're anchored into that space. Or it's sale time. You go into the shops and there's like was $199, now $99. Now, which is the most important price? The $199 or the $99? It's the $199 because the $199 makes the $99 feel to be a really good bargain. And that's what we need to go and do. Now let's move on to the power of free. There's a great experiment done in America, and often a lot of these behavioural economic experiments seem to be done with students. And the two things about students is students are always poor and they're always hungry. So they went in there and they laid a table in and basically they had a whole load of chocolates for sale. So they had a whole load of Hershey Kisses and a whole load of Lindt. And most of us know that actually the Lindt chocolate is a really nice chocolate, and the Hershey Kiss is less so. And they basically said us out. So in other words, you buy the Lindt, you pay 5 cents. You buy the Hershey Kiss, is only 1 cent. Well, actually, when they did this, after a period of time, they worked out that basically 73% of the students bought the Lindt because they realised it was worth paying extra for that. But then, come the end of the day, you know, got lots of stock left over. What do? They do a sale. So they reduce the price by 1 cent. So in other words, in theory, everything comes down. So actually the figures should stay the same, but they're not, because the 5 cent Lindt's got to 4 cent. The Hershey Kiss has gone from 1 cent to 0. So it's free. At this point, the figures completely change. And 69% of people are now taking the Hershey Kiss versus 27% before. Why? Because we think it's for free. And we think we're getting one over the world. But actually, so we lose all rationality and common sense about what we're doing. I know someone who's driving the wrong car. He wanted a Golf, but he bought another car because he gave him 7 years free servicing. So we've really got to be careful about how free really does change the game and what we think about it. Let's talk about chunking. Chunking is this idea that we are really bad decision makers, and any way you can make it easy for me to make a decision, better. And sometimes it means we have to chunk down, sometimes we have to chunk up. So let's give an example of chunking down. You take the cost of a car. A cost of a car is a lot of money, but if you break it down to it's only £199 a month, it feels much more feasible to buy a car than if you're saying it's £17,000. Or let's go the other way. I don't know what to order. Should I do it with a chip? Should I do it with a chip? Should I drink? You know what McDonald's and all the big sort of fast food do is they do menus. I'll have a number 2. No decision need to be made, and it all comes in there. Which really leads on to the next one, which is choice architecture. This idea of bundling stuff together or serving preset things. So if I don't want to make decisions, actually just give me something that you already decided was right and I'll be happy with that. You know, and actually maybe, you know, the best example of that is the wonderful work about organ donation, where they very simply changed, you know, the preset on driving license applications to you automatically opted in to giving your organs in case of death, you know, versus opting in to go and do it. And that very simple thing changed it. Another thing is just ordering stuff is insurance forms. You know, you've had a break-in, you have to fill in the form, you fill it in and then you sign at the bottom. When they moved your signature to confirm that everything was accurate and true to the top of the form, it actually reduced fraudulent claims by 9%. That's worth a lot of money. Mental accounting. Mental accounting is this idea that we store money in different ways. We have different attitudes towards money. So for example, you may still be paying a high interest rate on your credit card, but you're still putting money aside for your holiday. Well, that doesn't make sense. You should really clear all your debts because you're paying high interest rates, but people don't. I always love the example of, you know, where the cost of petrol, you know which are the cheap garages, so you drive halfway across town, you get there, you fill up, you feel really good about saving all the money, and what do? You go and buy a chocolate bar or a coffee, which completely nullifies any savings you made, but you don't put the two things together. You treat them as two separate costs. Let's do priming. Priming is the Wizzy Owl thing, is that what you see is all used. This idea that anything that surrounds it is going to be used as an influencer. So the smell of something, the taste of something, the weight of something, you know, Bang & Olufsen, you know, used to put a lead weight into their remote controls because that's really heavy. You know, that lovely example of, you know, if you play French music in a supermarket, you'll sell more French wines, and if you play German music, you'll sell more German wines. Or this idea that wine tastes better out of a really heavy glass. You know, so all those things prime you into thinking about, you know, something being better. And last one, and maybe the most powerful, is social norms. We are very heavily influenced by what other people are doing and thinking. So therefore, those Amazon user reviews are a much more powerful way to influence you to buy something than actually their own personal reviews were. You know, and this new artificial thing you see where they're creating queues outside stores or outside of restaurants makes you think, wow, it must be so popular, that place, when actually all they're doing is just creating an artificial queue. The last one I want to leave you with was a nice idea. It's apocryphal. I don't know if it's true, but it sounds good. You know, a trendy beer wanted to be seen to be the trendy beer in town, and basically outside of the trendy nightclub, they used to leave empty bottles of their beer the next day. So when people went by to work the next day, they clocked that was the trendy nightclub that all the trendy people went to, and that was the trendy beer that they drank there. Anyway, a quick whistle-stop tour through behavioural economics. I run workshops on this all the time. So if I can be of use, then by all means, follow me up on the link at the end of this video. In the meantime, take care and enjoy yourselves. Bye.